So I've got the new Masterwork mage armor that's currently priced at 1.2 bill, which was recently released with the 110 crafting update. This armor has a tier set effect following that of the Masterwork melee armor. You need a minimum of 3 items of the set in order to activate the tier set bonus, which is per piece worn, 10% of the incoming damage is delayed and dealt out over the next 6 seconds. So effectively, this can reach up to 50% damage reduction with all 5 pieces. So let's say a hit's going to hit you 10k, it'll just hit you 5k, and then the remaining amount will be over time. It's a hybrid between tank and power armor, and is even more impactful on mage than melee, as usually if you decide to melee, you're wanting to lean into that glass cannon full DPS mode, whereas mage is a lot more versatile and you can really take advantage of the extra survivability. I'm almost biased because mage has always been my go-to style. Even when necromancy came out, I didn't play necro consistently enough at the time to take advantage or jump onto that necro train. I basically just got to 120 necromancy and I killed Raziel a bunch of times and then that's it. So I never took advantage of the necro. I think maybe if I sink enough time into RS3, I'll probably pick up necro again, maybe for certain bosses. I hear it's, really consistent at Vorkath, and it does have a very consistent high burst DPS rotation, which could come in useful in certain boss scenarios. But I am a really big fan. It's just magic is my comfort pick, and I do like sustained damage, and I also like the survivability that comes with magic. So adding this extra layer of survivability, yeah, I'm a really big fan of that. I feel like they've been doing a lot with magic over the past year. I feel like they're trying to catch up the other styles now to what necro has provided to the game, which is obviously like increased accessibility and a few things, and obviously minimizing the need for switches and various things like that. So we'll see. It does feel like each style is distinct, and that's important to make it feel distinct, but we'll just see where they go with it. Ultimately, I'm not a big fan of huge volumes of switchscape. I'm not a fan of like high tempo switchscape as like a gameplay mechanic. I just want to focus and get immersed into the boss fight and my rotation, and that's about it. Amongst various other things going on, like maybe team play. So yeah, we'll just see where it goes. But yeah, magic is my comfort pick, so that's effectively what I'm de-rusting on now, and also likely going to be using that for the Amaska release. I've just really always liked as well that kind of RPG class fantasy of being a mage tank. Love it, and I think that's what Virago brought when you could base tank as like mage. When Virago first came out, you would base tank as melee. It was kind of just the go-to thing to do, and then eventually you started just base tanking as mage, which made a lot of sense because you would take reduced melee damage as well from Virago because of the way the combat triangle works. So yeah, it was just really awesome kind of equipping that like arcane shield or something and reducing that damage back then. And even now, just like mage bomb tanking or just maybe tanking at Zamorak or Solak, I have always liked that aspect of being a mage tank. There's not many MMORPGs out there that let you be that kind of hybrid between tanking and DPS as a mage. And if any of you have followed me on World of Warcraft or know what I do over there, my go-to playstyle is tanking. So it's definitely a playstyle I love to do, and it isn't as prevalent on RuneScape. A lot of it is just damage through and you'll be okay. So I really like kind of those team environments, or even maybe solo environments where survivability really comes in. And it allows you, in some ways this armor might allow you to approach things a bit more casually, knowing you're not going to get one shot as well as frequently, or, it reduces the chance of that happening. Ultimately, getting the kills and at least getting them consistently is ultimately better than speed in terms of farming content, maybe casually going for logs, or just increasing your vertical progression of your character by making more consistent GP. But then going for high DPS armor is, a certain type of way of playing, definitely. Maybe you've maxed out, maybe you've farmed the content enough and now you want to take it to the next level. Okay, you want to maximize and optimize that encounter. That's when you start adjusting your gear to optimize that DPS. Overall, to stick on this kind of route of my playstyle nowadays and how I'm approaching the game, I'm approaching the game more casually, purely down to not being able to put in as much time as I used to. I've always worked full time, but now I'm a dad with 3 kids, one of those being my baby daughter Erin, who's only 1.5 years old, and so demands a lot of attention. So they are my number one priority. Now, saying that, when I do get that time aside to do some gaming, if I'm in the right mindset and I'm not absolutely shattered from all those other things, then I do like to lock in, and I like to maximize the time spent. you know, I'm extremely inefficient in a lot of ways, you know, bank standing and just talking to mates and goofing about. But overall, when I'm like locking in, I do try and learn as much as I can in a short time window and just have fun whilst doing that. I get a huge kick from progression in games. That's why I'm an MMORPG player. RuneScape does provide a ton of vertical progression. Every single time I come back, I tend to make a bit of money and then I spend it instantly. I'm never sitting on money because I'm not constantly playing the game. Like every single time I come back, there's another like gear set or another item that costs like well over a bill that I need to, that I want to hunt for to then get, you know, close to, not absolute bis, but like up there, you know, enough to be able to do all of the end game content. And so I'm just rinsing through GP. On top of that, I'm doing completionist requirements right now, which is rinsing GP as well, gold pieces, just kind of spending money in order to AFK skills where I can, or, you know, rinse through Bibles if needed and where I can. So yeah, I'm never really sitting on cash, but yeah, I just like, I'm churning through GP, dude, churning through GP in this game. Like, but you know, that I do get most of my satisfaction from buying that next item or loaning, then paying back to have that item. Effective progression, and then learning the new content, learning the latest status quo, like how do I play, what am I doing, and sort of then taking my own approach to that. So looking at that and then setting my benchmark to that and thinking, nah, I don't want to do those extra 2 or 3 switches. I'm fine doing this, and that's a level which I'm comfortable at, and I'm getting like consistent kills. So that's feeling good. But ultimately just looking at it, enjoying the time spent in the game, enjoying kind of progressing through, learning new stuff. I just love learning new things, which is why I like checking out other games and just learning how those games are designed and the different systems that devs make. And then ultimately, though, it comes down to, okay, you know, jumping back in with a mate such as Chewy. We've been playing RuneScape together for many, many years, ever since we met through RuneScape, and we've been best mates since. So, you know, it's fantastic when we're both kind of interested in the game at the same time. We're actually both going to go and like blast some Destiny 2 with the new expansion that comes out next week in July as well. So yeah, it's always fun as well, ultimately, just hanging out and having fun with mates. I guess out of a lot of MMORPGs out there, RuneScape does allow and offer that balance of a lot of solo play and progression through maybe, let's say, completionist requirements or your own goals, getting your mates to join in and out whenever you're both available, and then scaling kind of kicks in, and or just focusing on maybe some group PVM for a bit because you've got those mates and you built up a network and you really enjoy it and you just want to jump into Discord and have a laugh, right, with each other. So the balance that RuneScape offers is quite nice for those two things. Despite there always being a bit of a tug of war between, I want to just focus on solo, and why did you make that group PVM, and why are you making that a solo only boss? I want to go and jump in and duo with my mate and play more of a tank role. You know, that is the downside of trying to offer both, kind of trying to appease to both types of players. Yeah, that's a difficult one for the Jagex devs for sure. You know, but then someone will just go out and say, well, why don't you just literally apply scaling and make every boss soloable as well? And yeah, there's a lot of balancing around that, especially with rewards and various other things. They've done it well, though, on some boss fights. Let me know in the comment section where you think they've done that really well and where it just went wrong, you know? Ultimately, it goes wrong, though, definitely, if they lock something down to solo only. I've never been a fan of that. But yeah, a lot of the group bosses, guys, like, pretty much eventually, like with power creep and various other systems, like eventually they become soloable anyway. So there is that aspect to it. So I'm literally rambling again. None of this is in my notes of what this video is supposed to be about. So let's crack on with progression. So I spent 2.5 hours researching into PVM stuff on this night before I even hit a dummy or a boss. I was talking to Twitch chat, thanks to those who tuned in. Interacting with the community is literally one of the best parts of being a streamer and a YouTuber. Also hanging out with my best mate Chewy that I went through a minute ago of how we met and how we're still PVMing together. And yeah, so I made some adrenaline renewal potions and decanted some other potions. Flipping it, there are so many different layers to these flipping potions. At least with overloads now, you can buy them in batches, and then also get the NPC in Fort Furn3 to help you batch make them a bit. So at least there's that. So anyway, obviously need the supplies in order to PVM in the first place, and so I just made enough for that night and you know, maybe a week or so. So in general, though, I'm going to have to prep a lot more supplies. Yeah, PVM, like supplies prep is, you know, definitely something major in this game. I did buy a ton of other things last time I played, actually, and I think I have the clip, so I'll show it on screen. I bought a bunch of familiars, scrolls, and various other things, food, etc. So I think I have that clip saved, and I'll show it on screen if I have. So I was stocking up with a few supplies, but I'm going to have to stock up with a lot more, especially before the prices start, you know, absolutely skyrocketing before a huge new PVM boss fight. Yeah, you know, just nudging there, you know, that's a bit of a tip. Like, maybe you should start buying now, yikes, you know. So let's get back to the progression here. So I transferred perks over from my Tectonic, my Elite Tectonic, by using equipment separators. I can always go and farm certain gizmos, perks again, and put that on my Elite Tectonic if it ever becomes a point where I want to use that again. I know it still has its niche place in terms of raw damage. At a certain level, you can safely remove the expensive gizmos and armor using those equipment separators. So that came in really useful. And I had 4 just nicely tucked away in my bank that I was able to use. Also, I've got a new mouse recently, as the old mouse wheel died. Flipping annoying. Anyway, I'm kind of like glad at the same time, because I had that mouse for a while. I've had 2 versions of Corsair scimitars now, 2 generations. And I've got a Razer MMO mouse. And honestly, that's the first MMO mouse that I started with many years ago. I had to remap the buttons to keybinds I have in game, so I had to go through that. I've also got a new keyboard, so all this for RuneScape PVM, guys. No, it's just in general. My keyboard I had for like 4.5, 5 years, so that needed an upgrade, and I'm been really digging, kind of looking into the minimalistic keyboards. The other one did break, so I've been rooting for a minimalistic keyboard, so I opted for an Epomaker F75 with Amazon Prime days recently happening. So this is a 75% keyboard, so this doesn't have a numpad, and it gives a lot more room on the desk, and I'm really getting into it. I had to readjust my UI again in game and save that down and just get familiar with that again, and just trying to get reacquainted with everything. You know, I didn't really have to readjust it loads, it's just I played about with it a lot while going for completionist, just kind of minimizing everything, and I got way too used to that, so now I've had to get used to kind of like a more PVM orientated UI. So got used to that a little bit, and getting reacquainted with where everything is, where the inventory is, where I can click certain things, getting comfortable with those clicks. And, you know, that includes inventory or like the odd ability like item or prayer book switching, spell book switching, sorry, various things like that. 90% of my abilities and items are keybinded. And so, you know, it takes a bit of time for that muscle memory to kick back in. I play lots of MMORPGs, but RuneScape is definitely up there in terms of an MMORPG that has the most potential for keybinds, just due to the multiple layers that you're engaging with in combat in RuneScape. A lot of those layers requiring keybinds. Like I've said already, though, I do try and minimize how many switches I'm doing as much as possible. It's just not the playstyle I enjoy. But my main switches are weapons, you know, weapons, spec weapons, maybe shield. Don't really need that as much now unless you want an extended barricade, because now we've got bone shield from necromancy. But that is a nice segue onto weapons. So the staff has been buffed since I've been away, the fractured staff of Armadil, and honestly I'm really glad about that, because that is such a good looking staff, right? And to not be able to use a two-hander staff that good looking, and considering how flipping rare it is, to only put that on for a spec every like minute just felt rubbish. So buffing that did make a lot of sense, and I do like that. And considering, like, you know, how expensive and more prominent that weapon is compared to the dual wield mage weapons that are dirt cheap from Nikatra now, like, yeah, it felt really weird. So definitely able to camp the staff a lot more now, especially through the special window due to the crit buff. I like this change. I do need to figure out, though, best time to weave in, you know, the Wand and Orb spec now. And so I'll have to do some research on that. Also open to any advice from viewers, you know, that they have on this. It could help a lot of other people out as well. I then looked into the new time spells that I've missed out on as well, coming back to the game. The key spell being Temporal Anomaly, a really cool concept of resetting the cooldown of your abilities after using them. And effectively, you just apply this aspect of power, this buff that lasts about 12 minutes. I wish it just lasted like an hour, because why not? You know, yeah, kind of annoying to have to apply that every 12 minutes, but I'm not going to complain. You know, you just have to go and have a bank preset, boom, activate all your buffs. But it's just that sort of thing where it kind of feels like it probably should just be like an hour aspect or something, just to improve quality of life. But lots of games have implemented, you know, this RNG kind of resetting of abilities into certain classes on MMORPGs, those who effectively favor that reactive gameplay. And when this released, I wasn't PVMing, as I've said, but noticed a few people make vids on it. And when I noticed people using it, I thought instantly, this needs a better visual cue, like a better visual indication of when an ability is reset that you've just used. And, you know, 6 months later or so, there's been no patch or update for it. Other people were complaining about it. And I guess players have just got used to it or got on with it. But it's like, it's an interesting idea and concept, but it's kind of half-arsed a bit. And, you know, it's kind of massively impactful, because if you get an Omnipower reset in your Sunshine, that is huge damage. I just feel like something like this needs a better visual cue or indication. And it would just be a massive quality of life improvement. You know, stuff like this not getting looked at puts me off the game, honestly, and it's these smaller parts of the game which make a huge longer-term impact when they stack up on how the gameplay feels. Then Chewy suggested, let's go Nakatra, a bold choice considering I hadn't PVM'd in a long time, due to how fast-paced that fight is once you get there after taking down the 2 predecessor bosses. But I'm always up for a challenge, and I did have a Reaper for it, so I thought, why not? I also thoroughly enjoyed running the Sanctum last time I did it, and I did love the implementation of like a boss rush mode in RuneScape, capitalizing on one of the things they do best, which is creating very kind of unique, farmable boss content. So you would have seen some footage throughout this video of me at the Sanctum, and I'm just going to let the video play out now with the live commentary of this kill and how it went. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed today's video and just chilled out and enjoyed listening along to progress once again. Let me know how your progress is going in-game, in various other games. I don't even care what game, just love progress. So like, just talk about it, let us know in the comment section. Other than that, thanks guys for listening. Make sure to give it a like if you enjoyed it. It gets the video out more widespread across the YouTubes. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. I guess I've got a question for chat, like, when am I using my wand and orb spec, I guess. Especially if I'm sticking on my staff. During the spec window.
I was gonna do the squares.
Got a reset, nice. Big damage. Devo, I mean, might get res as well. Let's go. Almost got base.
Almost at the dogs.
Nice. AoE dogs down, remember symbols or something. I hit the closest storm. Melee prey. I don't know where my melee prey is. Evo extend. Okay. Okay, let's go, bro. Step mechanic. Shit.
Playing this one.
Alright. Get closest. Evo extend. Great chain. So would have died there, you know. It's pretty young. Let's go! As if, bro. As if, bro. As if.
No drop. Never lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, like, if I watched that whole footage back, there's only one moment I would have died, and it was right at the end there. Without this armor, like, I messed up my adren, basically. And I remember making that mistake loads back in the day when I was learning. And I didn't have the adren, because I devoed, I think, one before, I don't know. Basically, I just didn't have I didn't have enough dren to use reflect. I can't bank my loot, because my bank's full. Typical. Use any resets there was too much going on, like I didn't check for the time anomaly thing, because it's just annoying as hell to check for that. There's no visual indication.
Right at the end there, I had an extra omni power in my sunshine as well.
Nice, nice.